Dear colleagues, let me present the results of a scientific research on the topic methodology for evaluating the performance of websites and its improvement using data mining techniques. Today, one of the priority directions for the development of e-government in Ukraine is the creation of a digital ecosystem for territorial communities. It includes the following components: electronic government, digital infrastructure, digital services for citizens and business, and digital educational environment. That is why the purpose of this investigation was to understand the state and functioning of community sites as a whole, to improve the system of criteria for evaluating the effectiveness of websites, to identify successful and problematic groups using the data mining technique, as well as to develop a system of recommendations so that the sites become more effective. For this purpose, during September-December 2022, the authors of the article monitored the websites of authorities and local governments of 14 territorial communities of Ternopil Oblast. In the evaluation process, each site received a score based on individual parameters. The system of indicators for each of the 15 sites contained 5 elements. Each of them contained a number of sub-criteria. The maximum possible value of the final assessment for each site was 108 points. An important task of this study, in addition to directly evaluating the sites, was to test the methodology of site research. To identify a possible correlation between the 5 main site assessment criteria, pairwise values of Pearson correlation coefficient, they are calculated for all possible combinations of criteria. Note that the value of the correlation coefficient does not depend on the order of the selected criteria. Therefore, the correlation matrix is symmetric for all pairs of criteria. All obtained values of pairwise correlation coefficient are entered in the correlation matrix. The values highlighted in the table indicate the presence of the positive linear correlation between first and third criteria, first and fourth criteria. A comparative analysis of the sub-indicators included in the specified pairs of criteria will make it possible to make a decision on merging the main criteria that showed a positive correlation or removing one criterion from the pair that showed a positive correlation from the system of criteria. With the aim of understanding the state and functioning of community site as a whole, identifying problems, groups, and developing a system of recommendations to improve the sites, the machine learning technique was applied, namely site clustering. So we use an algorithm calculates the square root Euclidean distance between elements in a cluster and the cluster mean and converged on a final set of k clusters, then that sum reaches its minimum value. The cluster analysis made it possible to distinguish groups of community sites based on their similarity: 10 participants, 3 and 2 participants. The built clustering model allows us to find hidden structures in the information content of community or authority websites and to separate groups that have similar characteristics. The result of clustering can be used to identify complex relationships between information resources and improve their perception and use of information by citizens. The proposed methodology for evaluating community websites then used can have several key effects for the development of the e-government system: improving interaction with the community, attracting new users, assessment of achievements and effectiveness, and reputations improvement. Thanks for your attention.